Hello, welcome to the Physionic Podcast. Obviously, things are not going to be changing for anybody listening to this on the podcast, but you might be surprised if you're watching this on YouTube. I usually post these on Facebook, but I've been changing things up, trying to figure out what is the most optimal way for me to create the most possible content and be of greatest value to everybody. And I'm going to be trying out and most likely sticking to creating the dedicated podcast episode that releases on Mondays. Not the video form will not be released on Facebook, but will now be released on YouTube, and I'll be releasing different videos, shorter videos on Facebook, because YouTube's just a great platform for kind of longer form videos. That said, if you're watching this now and you don't feel like watching a little bit longer form video, some of my videos, actually many of my videos tend to be longer form, you're always welcome to check it out on podcast form. You can literally type in Physionic into any podcast platform, be that Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is, and you should find it. If you don't, let me know. I'd be interested to hear about that so I can fix it. But with that said, let's jump into today's topic. Usually these podcast episodes are completely off the cuff. I have a few notes that I've written down and a topic that I'd like to discuss for today. And the topic for today is going to be talking about a little bit of the differences between water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. Now, you might be wondering as to why this matters. Why do you care? Well, you should care because, well, one, for educational purposes, but secondly, because your health is at stake. Dun, dun, dun. No, but if you overconsume fat-soluble vitamins, you could be impairing your health. So let's talk a little bit about the differences. So water-soluble vitamins are the vast majority of the vitamins that we are supposed to be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And they are taken up by the intestinal tract relatively easily, and they get distributed throughout the body relatively easily, and they're also excreted. So that's really, really convenient. Because if you, by mistake, overconsume, let's say vitamin C, let's say you consume 50 times more than the normal amount, your body can just filter that out through your kidneys and then just dump it, and that'll be that. If you've ever taken these really like massive vitamins before that are packed with way more vitamins than you might need, the reason why people say you piss that away is because you are literally pissing that away. You are taking in the vitamins, they're all being absorbed, right? Or at least most of them. And then it's getting into your bloodstream. All your cells are picking out as much as they possibly want or need based on gradients, based on concentration, all that stuff I'm not going to get into. And then at the back end, you still have a ton of vitamins left. So what does your body do? Sends it to your kidneys. Your kidneys then filtrate through, take all that out, and dump it into urine, create urine, and then you piss it out. So water-soluble vitamins, although you can certainly waste your money on them in certain respects, you should still be consuming a certain amount of them. It's just that anything beyond that, your body's very capable of dealing with that issue. So it's not really an issue. On the other hand, fat-soluble vitamins, I already gave away the punchline earlier, but with fat-soluble vitamins, they are not as readily absorbed. They're still pretty readily absorbed, but they're usually more dependent on fat. So as opposed to water-soluble, which are more dependent on water, which essentially is everywhere. So that's why it's not that big of an issue. But fat-soluble tend to be taken up in the intestinal tract through those enterocytes that make up the intestinal tract relatively easily when you have fat present. So that's why typically you want to eat your vitamin for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is because you want to eat and then take your vitamin is because it helps with the digestion and, more importantly, the absorption of those fat-soluble vitamins. So it's not as readily absorbed, but if it is readily absorbed, or if you do overconsume substantially, the problem is that it's far less readily excreted. And the reason for that is because it's not necessarily released all in the urine, and it can actually be taken up and held in tissue, so it can build up. And there are advantages to that, certainly, but there are also disadvantages. So the advantages, of course, are that if you're ever in a situation in which you don't have access to fat-soluble vitamins for, let's say, a week, no problem. Your body will just start metabolizing what it's stored. So that's not a big deal at all. On the flip side, of course, if you are vastly chronically over-consuming on those fat-soluble vitamins, it just continues to build and build and build, and it keeps piling up within your adipocytes as well as in your liver. So then that eventually leads to certain levels of toxicity. And it's also excreted, not necessarily always through urine, which is a very popular and easy method to filtrate different metabolites, but can also be excreted through a slower process through bile, so bile acid. So your liver will create bile, usually dependent on cholesterol, and then will dump whatever it doesn't need into that bile, and then you excrete it out. You poop it out. But that's certainly a far longer process. It's a far more intensive process as opposed to the urine, which is far more favorable and more favorable towards water soluble. So that's kind of the basis. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but that's the basis for why fat-soluble vitamins. Make sure that you're consuming enough of them, certainly the same with water-soluble vitamins, but make sure that you're not over-consuming. And I've seen this on nutrition documentaries specifically, where you see these people that are like, yeah, just take 10,000 times the normal amount of vitamin C, which is a water-soluble vitamin. I guess I'll quick mention which ones are fat-soluble. So look out for vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Those are your four fat-soluble vitamins. So stick to the recommended daily amount for each one of those. And if you go a little over, you're probably all right. Don't worry about it too much. If you're continuously over and over and over again for months at a time, you might be causing a little bit of an issue. And with water-soluble vitamins, definitely hit what you're supposed to be hitting. But, if you go over even by a pretty drastic amount, your body can handle it once or twice. It's not too big of an issue. All right, with that said, hopefully you found this episode informative. Hopefully you like these kind of off the cuff. It's just me talking in front of a camera, no editing or any sort of post editing stuff. It's kind of liberating because having to edit videos and podcasts and all kinds of other stuff, Instagram, it's just tons and tons of editing, which I do enjoy, but it's nice to sit back and relax every once in a while and just shoot the shit in manner of speaking. All right. Well, with that said, I hope that it was informative. Let me know your thoughts if you're on YouTube. I'd love to hear your thoughts, certainly. And I will catch you in the next one. Have a good one. See ya.